Welcome to Everything Casual, bringing you original football casual videos from the golden era of the 80s and 90s, right up to current day. Football away day stories and historic clashes between football firms. Subscribe so you don't miss out. We upload videos every week.
The fear, the ones that could bottle it, hold it in, then you could perform, you know. So for me, it was more of a personal test to see how big my bollocks were, how much bottle I had.
Any examples of, some kick-ins, maybe some run-ins with Cardiff City?
Yeah, the big one for me, because it was the biggest pasting I took, I think, over the football. I couldn't tell you the year, but Cardiff were playing Bristol. It got to the point where Cardiff would stop off in Newport sometimes, just for a bit of sport.
Tit for tat, is it?
Yeah. So they came off the train station. I was sat in the arcade pub. There was 4 of us in there. Young lad runs in. It's Cardiff. Come off the station. They're everywhere, So
Everything Casual is all about bringing you anything and everything to do with the football casual culture. Sometimes we make videos about the history of football firms, and sometimes we bring you news of incidents involving lads or mobs. Today, we bring you news on Newport County lads getting sentenced after a ruck was caught on CCTV, and while we are on the topic of Newport County lads, I will throw in an interview with former Newport top lad Trevor Trewick. First, let's go into detail on the Newport lads that got nicked and charged, and we will look at actual video footage of the incident. Then we will listen to the legend that is Trevor Trewick about his life with the Newport firm. 3 Newport County AFC football hooligans attacked rival East Leigh fans in the Welsh city centre during shocking scenes of post-match violence. Samuel Grant, 24, Joseph Friel, 22, and Wayne Thomas, 18, assaulted supporters during a mass brawl involving around 50 men outside the Wetherspoon pub on Cambrian Road. The trouble erupted at around 6:30 on Saturday, January the 6th, after 2 sets of fans had been goading and taunting each other following a 1-1 FA Cup tie draw at Rodney Parade. Anisha Rai, prosecuting, played CCTV covering the punch-up, which lasted just over 6 minutes. Cardiff Crown Court saw Grant kicking an elderly man in the head and swinging punches before he was arrested by police at the scene. He told officers he had drank 8 pints from around noon that day, leading up to the violence. Friel was captured punching someone in the face and spitting at another fan when they were on the floor. Thomas threw the first punch, which started everything. Miss Rai said, "His actions had a chain reaction." Thomas and others went to Bar Amber to gather reinforcements, and this is when Grant and Friel joined in. Thomas left and played no further part. Grant of Greig Park Hill, Newport, Friel of Sherborne Road, Sebastopol, Pontypool, and Thomas of Conway Road, Pontypool, pleaded guilty to violent disorder. The court heard that Grant has previous convictions for assault, occasioning actual bodily harm, and a fray from football-related incidents. Friel and Thomas had no previous convictions. William Bebb for Grant said his client had matured since the trouble and was in a stable relationship and had a job. Friel, it was said, has a history of anxiety and depression. Hilary Roberts for Thomas said, "The defendant is a decent young man who has shown remorse." The judge, recorder Andrew Hammond, said Grant's kicking of the elderly man had been cowardly. He told him, "Shamefully, you directed a punch at an obviously vulnerable elderly man, and when he was lying on the ground, you kicked him, either in the torso or the face." Recorder Hammond praised PC Jade Butterworth for her bravery. She arrived at the scene on her own and ran to help the pensioner being attacked. She displayed extraordinary personal courage after she came to understand there was an elderly man who needed protecting, the judge said. Grant was sent to prison for 28 months. Friel was jailed for 20 months, but the sentence was suspended for 2 years. He was made the subject of a mental health treatment requirement for 12 sessions, complete a 10-day rehabilitation activity requirement, and pay a £300 fine and 150 costs. Thomas was sent to a young offenders institution for 18 months, suspended for 2 years. He will have to carry out 150 hours of unpaid work, complete a 15-day rehabilitation activity requirement, and pay costs. All 3 defendants were made the subject of 5-year football banning orders. Sergeant Paul Turner from Gwent Police's neighbourhood team at Newport Central said, "Our priority is to ensure those attending football matches at Rodney Parade and visiting our city can enjoy the game and do so in safety." During a thorough investigation, we pieced together the events of the day, starting with clear surveillance footage from inside the stadium to the disorder in the city centre, to bring these 3 men to justice. These additional football banning orders, together with the sentencings, highlight a strong stance that the disgraceful behaviour and conduct seen that day in the city centre will not be tolerated. People run the risk of not attending football matches for a significant period of time, should they pose a risk before, during or after matches, and will be dealt with accordingly. Under the terms of the football banning order, Grant, Friel and Thomas Acker must not enter any premises for the purpose of attending any football matches in the UK, which are regulated for the purposes of the Football Spectators Act 1989. They must not be within 1,000 metres of any regulated football match in the UK during the period of 5 hours before kick-off until 5 hours after the final whistle on any day on which a regulated football match is being played.
Part of my life, it was an early part, but like I said, it probably set me on my path.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to go into that because you're actually a Newport County boy.
Yeah.
We've had Cardiff lads on. There's been a lot of talk about Newport County as well. So now we've got you here, I think we need to go into it a bit. So what was your first earliest memories of county?
My man used to take me over the county, and I always used to look at the Cromwell and wish I was there on it because of the energy there, you know. I used to sit up in the stand with him, and I just dreamt of being in that energy, you know, in with that crowd. So from about the age of 12, I was going on to the Cromwell end, started going to away games. The Perrys, twins from Newport, good Newport boys, they run coaches. I used to go on there. I was probably like the mascot then, the youngest one. They were all older than me. So yeah, I started going about 12, but I would say, you know, the football thing really kicked off around 83, 84. Yeah, 83, 84, the casual scene started happening. Up until then, it was punks and skins and donkey jackets on the terraces, you know.
Yeah, so you really came around.
I hit it at the right time. It was short and sweet. I only spent about 5 years at it. But I did hit it at the right time, just when that casual scene was coming into play.
Yeah, and I've spoken to some people since, you know, conversating with you, mentioned your name too. In my eyes, I would think are quite certified, you know, verified lads from county. And the reputation you've got, considering you was only there for 5 years, you must have made quite an impression.
Yeah, do you know what? I think there was a lot of us over there trying to make a name for ourselves or doing something that just stood out a little bit more, you know? So if you did things like that, I worked it out pretty quick. If you did a couple of things that was like above and beyond what anyone else was prepared to do, you got a reputation for yourself. And that kind of ends up in folklore, you know? For example, 30 years after that, some of those incidents, I've walked into a bar, the barman's rung the bell, told everyone what I did, some like event over the football, and said the drinks are on us. And 30 years later, you're still getting a pat on the back for it, you know? Yeah,
Yeah. So
people don't forget.
yeah, people don't forget. You're right. So there's a couple of things I'll go into about the terraces and
Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you subscribe, you will be notified when we release a new video. It could be your firm we make a video about next, so don't miss out and hit the subscribe button. You can find me on Facebook or email me if you have a good story to tell. See you next time.